I read the article about the Giants' 5th straight loss last night in Phoenix, Arizona, to the D-backs, and it confirmed that there is indeed a possibility that the Giants could choose to be sellers at the trade deadline. This is a bad situation. And this loss to the Diamondbacks, was it just like a loss to the Dodgers? Well, there is one fundamental difference. You know the best way to measure that difference? By saying it's 4 places in the division standings. A difference of 4 spots in the standings. That's the difference between playing the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. The Dodgers swept the Giants over 4 games. That was inexcusable. But at least the Dodgers were the first place team. Then you go to play the last place Diamondbacks. Are you going to get any relief? Well, they don't seem to be getting any, because last night they lost 7-0. In fact, if you talk about whether they could get things going early, they could not, because Diamondbacks starter Merrill Kelly threw a no-hitter for 5 innings until Luis Gonzalez broke it up with the double in the 6th. I think that was a perfect game, actually, with no walks either. Basically, he didn't allow any base runners, and I think that would exclude errors. So, does that mean the offense is struggling a bit? Well, it seems to, although, of course, you have to give some credit to Kelly's pitching. And, did the bullpen pitch well yesterday? No, it did not. John Brebbia got a couple of outs, though. I can't say what he did with inherited runners as far as that goes. Because, I mean, Harleen Garcia, he got nobody out. I wasn't right in front of the game that inning, so I just can't say how Brebbia did if he had inherited runners at the time of his coming in. And so rather than being able to make a late inning comeback, the Diamondbacks made a late inning add-on to the runs they already had, and they finished the game shutting out the Giants 7-0. So that is what is extra concern about this next loss, because it's a loss to the last place Diamondbacks. This has got to stop happening. Last place Diamondbacks, they've got a 53-43 record. They're in last place in the National League West. They are not contenders for a playoff spot. The Giants just could not let the Diamondbacks knock them out of a playoff spot. The Cardinals did not play yesterday, so the Giants are knocked back to 2.5 games behind the Cardinals. And the statement on the Giants' official website is that it's getting close to the deadline. These are critical games for the Giants, when they will have to decide whether to be buyers or sellers. Their record is getting close. I mean, they started the year just really hot, but their record now is a lot like it was in 2018 around this time. There could be 2 main differences here. Number 1, there is a 6th playoff spot, so 1 extra team is going to be in it this year. Number 2, in 2018, do you know what the Giants did at the trade deadline? They did nothing. They did not trade, I don't believe, a single player at the trade deadline in 2018. They didn't make the playoffs. No, they ended the season terrible. They were hovering around 500 for a large portion of 2018. They didn't make the playoffs after doing nothing at the trade deadline. Could they have changed the outcome if they had been aggressive in 2018 at the end of July? The deadline's been July 31st, but they moved it to August 2nd, presumably because the season started a bit later this year, because everyone was squabbling about the issues of a multi-million-dollar industry. But anyway, those are 2 differences from 2018 and now. It could be more realistic now if they were aggressive. I just wonder. Head back with me to 2018. If they had been aggressive at the trade deadline and gotten like 2 or 3 really good players, they would have had to trade the prospects for it. Could they have maybe picked up the second National League wildcard spot that year? We'll never know now. In 2019, they were on a real hot streak around the deadline. They were like second in the National League West, close to a wildcard spot. If they had been more aggressive, they got Scooter Gennett from the Reds, they'd end up designating him for assignment. If they'd been more aggressive in 2019 and gone after the great players, would they have caught up to the second National League wildcard spot? We'll never know. Then go with me to the pandemic-shortened 2020 season. It was only 60 games, so the trade deadline, it was sometime in August. And what did the Giants do there at the trade deadline? Well, it's hard to remember everything about who they would have traded, but I think all they did was just deal with their minor league players, not making any significant deals or anything. If they had gotten... In 2020, they only had a chance that year because it was expanded to 8 teams per league. If they had been aggressive at the trade deadline in 2020, could they have caught up to the final, the barely getting in National League wildcard spot? We'll never know. 2021 was a great season, though. I mean, they got Chris Bryant at the trade deadline, really only because they needed to chase down the division. The significant difference it made winning the division and winning the wild card spot. But this year, we've got a unique situation. I don't believe this has ever happened before in the history of baseball. Somehow, they're having a 6-team playoff bracket, and I still don't fully understand how that would work, because if 3 teams eliminated the other 3, well, I mean, I think it's still going to be 3 teams that get a free pass into the division series, or maybe it would be 4, and then, like, what's going to be the difference now between the first and the second wild card spots? Well, I don't exactly know, but I know this is what the Giants would need to chase down. This could have double the importance. They're going to be buyers or they're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and that is going to depend largely on how they perform in the final 8 games leading up to the trade deadline. And thankfully, they've got 2 more against the last in the National League West, Diamondbacks. I certainly don't think the Cubs are anywhere near a playoff spot. They'll be playing the Cubs in a 4-game series after that. They just swiped out the Cubs last year, winning all their games against them but 1. And this year, can they do that? The Diamondbacks and Cubs, neither of them is a good team. They're playing them before the deadline. So would it be too much to ask for them to do something against both those teams, to do what they could not do against the Dodgers, to at least to do 2 things to get back into the standings, and to give the front office motivation to give the Giants the help that they need to be buyers at this trade deadline? There's a real possibility that they could be sellers now, and it was aggravated yesterday by losing 7-0 to the Diamondbacks. 5th place in the National League West. And Jacob Junis, the starter, it wasn't him. He pitched well in the game. I mean, he got into a bit of trouble in the 5th inning. But, you know, it was 1 run that Junis gave up total. So I actually, is that a terrible performance? Well, no, it's not. I think it was more the bullpen and the fact that the Giants couldn't get things going offensively. So yes, I would want Junis to stick in the rotation. I think he's pitching well. But tonight, we've got Carlos Rodon on the mound. His turn has come up again. His last start against the Dodgers did not go well. And part of that was because Luis Gonzalez somehow lost a ball in the darkness, and it wasn't scored in error. It probably shouldn't have been. I think the scorer made the right call there. But even if you put that aside, like for both of them, not charging it to either Gonzalez or Rodon just wasn't his best against the Dodgers. Now he gets to face the last place Diamondbacks. And would it be too much to ask for the Giants to win with Rodon pitching? Otherwise, we just got to throw up our hands. It's going to be ridiculous. It's not only Rodon tonight, but it should be Webb tomorrow. Logan Webb should be pitching in what, well, I would kind of expect to be a day game since it's the last in a series. Don't get distracted by that blower over there. Can't block out all outside noise. Carlos Rodon, Logan Webb. Too much to ask for the Giants to win both of those games, because they need them badly. And yes, each pitcher is likely going to have to get offensive run support. The bullpen, I hope it doesn't come to this, but the bullpen may need to pitch out of some pretty serious jams. But what can we do besides, what can the Giants do besides play baseball here? Facing the Diamondbacks, these are games that they absolutely need to win. It's been a bad 5-game skid. What I'm grateful for is that Gabe Kapler thinks that they can turn this around and get to a playoff spot. He's going to have some influence on the front office if he gets to talk to them. He better have some pretty serious conversations with Farhan Zaidi and tell him that, because that could be everything. It really could. Are the Giants going to gain or lose roster value at the trade deadline? And they're going to need to gain a substantial amount, too. There's just something that the Giants need right now. So it's inexcusable and unacceptable that they're losing these games. However, it looks that way to us because it's just a long losing streak, but they really are still in competition for a playoff spot. And the playoffs, of course, is our only definition of success for a particular season. Not saying rebuilding never works. For a particular season, though, our definition of success is getting to the playoffs. So this skid has to end. And it needs to tonight with Carlos Rodon, the best pitcher that they've got, probably. I mean, he was selected to the All-Star game, but Logan Webb's going to be a close competitor for the best starter that the Giants have got. So, there's nothing for them but to win tonight. I don't know what else I can say about that. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you have not. Getting close to the trade deadline and the heat of the playoff run, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do. You can also email me at gabrielvaughn89@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Please join me next time.